What happened in the world of government purchasing in 2019? What's ahead in 2020? More important than that, is your business ready to win lucrative government contracts? Hi, I'm Bill Culhane from Bid Prime in Austin, Texas, and I'm going to be visiting with Stephen Hetzel, an industry expert. We sat here a year ago, and at that point you were looking ahead to 2019, and you predicted that a number of industries, to include cybersecurity, IoT, threat detection, infrastructure, automation, those were some of the industries that you said would be busy in 2019. How did your predictions work out?
We were pretty right on most things. There were a couple of things that we were a little behind on, it seemed, but looked like cybersecurity. We talked about that for several years, but that's just an up-and-coming industry. That industry is changing, it's morphing, it's becoming new things, which we'll probably talk about in a minute. IoT, the Internet of Things, that was about a 20% increase, and year over year I looked at 2017, 2018, 2019 using our new market analysis, and about 20% year over year increases.
Yeah, you mentioned the market analysis. What does that do?
That is Bid Prime's been, 10 years that we celebrated this last year, so we're in our 11th year now, and we can analyze the aggregate of all the data going back to the beginning of Bid Prime and even a little before, and look at trends, opportunities going back 10 years. It's a more impressive tool that we can use to share a lot of this information with our customers so they can find the new contracts that are coming up for renewal every year. The Broadband 5G, that actually beat my expectations. That was an 80% increase from 2018 to 2019. It seems like we'll talk about that for 2020. UAV, we talked about drones and unmanned vehicles of all different types. Had about a 10% increase. So there was an increase, but it wasn't this astronomical explosion of opportunities in the drone market and even in the drone services UAV market on the state and local side.
When we visited with Marty Rogers from Assure a couple of years ago, he is obviously heavily involved in the UAV drone world, and he talked about regulation potentially having an impact on growth in the industry. Is that what happened?
We talked about 4 years ago, Amazon delivery drones being all over the skies, and it was all over the news. This is going to be the future. Haven't really seen it. There was an explosion where there were a lot of household drones, and now it's a little more regulated. So I think it's harder to fly a drone around the city than it used to be. AI, VR, augmented reality, mixed reality, that also had about a 30% increase from 2017, 2018, 2019. So it's just continuing to increase at the same percentage points in terms of the number of opportunities on the federal, state, and local side.
So Stephen, there are a number of the industries that your prediction was at least really close as you looked ahead, but obviously things don't always play out the way we see in our crystal ball. What are some of the industries that back at the end of 2018 you thought there would be growth, but maybe it didn't quite meet your expectations?
Last year's comments were automation, self-service, and kiosks. I thought that would grow a little more significantly, and then it did. It was about a 3% increase. It seemed to be flat. I think 2020 will be an increase in that, but we'll see. A lot of that is the implementation of, quote, AI or artificial intelligence. Should be an increase in that. Critical infrastructure, pretty flat on state and local side. The reinforcement, the services to construct or reinforce, build, design, maintain critical infrastructure facilities was flat on state and local side, and actually on the federal side it was a 30% drop in 2019 over 2020.
Why do you think, as you look at the country as a whole, why do you think there was a drop?
I don't know if we just put a lot into it the last several years, and maybe it's just maintaining instead of these new projects, new facilities. But another one we talked about was micromobility, scooters. Had a 5% increase. It didn't really explode, and I think also regulation laws kind of caught up with taming some of the craze. But I do think we'll see more of that.
We have scooters here in Austin.
We do, yeah. It's a controversial subject in some cities, but I haven't seen at least the number of opportunities represent the number of scooters that have grown in our city, at least.
We know this. State, local, federal governments in the United States are going to spend trillions of dollars. What will the focus be in 2020?
Well, everybody's talking about the election in 2020, and I do think that that's going to be talked about probably more in the sense of cybersecurity and threats there. 5G, we talked about that in 2019. It beat our expectations. I expect 2020 to pretty much be the same. Automation, that just talked about, I think the government's just lagging behind, but we should see some of the tech infrastructure to automate building, some limited forms of AI. I saw bids for automated mowers, actually, and there's some new applications, which maybe it's not unmanned flying vehicles that we talked about, but these are a little more on the ground. VR simulation, primarily in education industry, that seems to be where it's picking up, and there's not really a need in the state and local market or federal markets for VR. I mean, it's kind of a home toy, but you can do a lot of simulation of whether it's like law enforcement training, fire training. They're just new learning applications that I think K-12 is really spearheading that, but I think we'll see more even in professional development, probably in the coming years.
As you know, it wasn't that long ago that we visited with Justin Bathen from the University of Kentucky, a recognized expert on education in the U.S. And one of the things that Mr. Bathen tried to reinforce is we in the U.S. are still lagging behind when it comes to technology and education. So you see that being addressed in the upcoming year?
I mean, I've seen it. It's just the numbers of opportunities are still small. The percentages are high in terms of growth, but it should increase in 2020 based on what we're seeing.
Are the dollars associated with these projects significant?
Yeah. There's a lot of money behind VR right now. We've talked a lot about cybersecurity, and one of the things that I've looked at is that the nature of cybersecurity is changing a lot. What it's called, what it is, whether it's identity, privacy protection. I think we'll continue to see that. The election's being talked about too a lot, and I think cybersecurity and election will probably be wrapped together a lot.
We sat down with Diana Burley from George Washington University and also Gary Brantley, the CIO of the city of Atlanta. And so when you talk about cybersecurity, I think prior to my conversations with those two individuals, I thought, okay, cybersecurity, that's something that the feds need to worry about. But as you and I have discovered, it impacts small town America all the way up to the White House, true?
Right. And small town America can fulfill the need through a lot of just off-the-shelf software, things that you and I use just on the commercial level even. But the medium, large size agencies really need customized solutions, training, implementation of multi-factor authentication, other security that it's coming around. I think the election will probably be a good reason for them to get on board. I also looked at wind turbines, renewable energy. We saw about a 10% increase in the number of wind turbine opportunities, and it's coming out as like renewable energy opportunities. There's a lot of different names, the servicing of the wind turbines. There's a lot more that is not just the construction and implementation of it, it's the operation and maintenance as well. Also cloud, and of course that's
something we've talked about for years.
Big subject. We've seen the state and local market follow with whether it's Office 365, Microsoft Office, or Google Suite, other applications that are growing in the market and should also continue to grow.
You and I were talking about government spending, and I asked you the question, what impact will the election have on government spending? And I thought it was interesting, and it proved to be true, that you said, regardless of who's sitting in the White House in Washington, D.C., governments are going to spend money.
Right. It's the universal fact of government. Whoever's in office, whoever's in power, and it's infrastructure is one of the things we talked about year over year every year, and that's infrastructure is always happening, but the whole centralized program for infrastructure hasn't really come to fruition, and it probably still won't in 2020. It's a lot of election talk, and I think we'll see a lot of talked about with transit and rail. I don't know about things that are as forward as like the Hyperloop, but just rail itself seems to be a more centralized, unified topic for some politicians to energize around.
All right, Stephen, you did a recap of 2019, and you were kind enough to kind of put yourself on the spot looking ahead to 2020. Are there any industries out there that maybe are being a little bit overhyped, where people are expecting big things in the upcoming year, but you're saying tap the brakes a little bit?
I think I said it last year too. It's with AI, and everybody now says they have AI. I mean, what that version of AI is just algorithmic AI, linear regressions. Some forms of deep learning. Everybody talks about it. So I think it's more, to me, it's more of a branding term, and I think it'll be talked about. The government will probably, follow with that and say they have AI systems for, I don't know, traffic, for police reports, or for
Customer service.
yeah, for EMS. I have no idea, but I've heard it talked about in some ridiculous notions, and I think it'll probably still continue to do that. We talked about infrastructure too. I mean, infrastructure is just a topic that's talked about, especially in election years. It's a politicized topic, but it's one that people tend to come together on. So I think we'll hear that a lot in 2020 as it moves into a general election.
What tools are available for me to identify some of these bids, some of these RFPs that you've glossed over?
The market analysis we launched in 2019 is much more interactive than our old one. You can go back and look 10 years back, 5 years, 3 years, different trends, different regions, areas, and it centers around whatever our customer's profile is. So whatever we set them up for the active solicitations in which they're getting, which is a combination of codes, of heuristics, of keywords, a lot of these combinations that we build out these customer accounts. We are able to give them that same glimpse going back 10 plus years into government opportunities so that they can find renewing term contracts, renewing bids, things that come out every 3 years, every 4 years. There are a lot of cycles with purchasing, especially in steady government industries. But as far as also identifying new industries, new products to take to the market, new trend opportunities, new areas of opportunity in a specific region or area, the market analysis helps uncover a lot of those now.
So if I'm in IT, if I'm in water treatment, if I sell butter or whatever the case may be, are you talking about this market analysis will give me a snapshot of the industry, or can it be very specific to exactly what it is that I do?
It can be as specific or granular as somebody wants. And if our customers come to us and ask us a lot of times can you just identify this software for constituent management systems, citizen reporting systems, and we'll actually put together a very granular customized report for the last 5-10 years showing all the opportunities, all the ones that are for renewal, things that recur. And it can cover multiple keywords, but it can also cover an entire account's profile or just an entire industry itself if you want to look at just office supplies. The market analysis this year was much easier to put together a lot of this data because I could use our own tool instead of having to go and write a lot of complex queries to find a lot of these trends. Now it's just at our customers' hands, and it's the same tool that I'm using to look at a lot of our data.
What if I live and work specifically in the state of Texas, or let's say that I'm only interested in opportunities west of the Rockies? Will this tool be able to be modified to address my specific needs?
Yeah, it can be modified. I like to tell our customers that we can make it anything as specific as they want, whether it's a region, category, industry, product. If someone tells us the requirements they want, it's simple for us to build. So if you just want to look at Texas and you just want to look at mowing contracts in Texas, we can provide that for you. If you want to look at the state of Texas as a whole, office supplies nationwide, bridge engineering nationwide, or just on the East Coast in Canada, we can build it as granular as you want and send it to you, and it can be shared with colleagues, and I hope everybody takes advantage of it.
So there you have it. Our look back at 2019, look ahead to the year 2020. Are you and your business prepared to win some of these government contracts that are coming out in the upcoming year? For Stephen Hetzel, I'm Bill Culhane. We stand ready to help you and your business win. On behalf of everyone at BidPrime, all the best in growing your business.